Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out People of Reddit. Story 1. It'll only be a minute. I pulled into the local Wawa because I had a tire that needed air. As I was driving up to the air pump, a woman was backing into the bay. Figuring I would have to wait until she finished putting air into her tires, I put the car into park. But instead of filling her tires, she got out and walked toward the store. I politely pointed out that her parking spot was for the air pump. In a very snotty voice she said, "I'll only be a minute." So I backed my car up so that my rear bumper was a few inches from the front of her car, essentially making it impossible for her to pull out until I moved my car away. Then I got the air hose and moved to one of my tires, but waiting until she was out of the store and headed to her car before I started putting air into my tire. "Excuse me. You're blocking me in," was shouted at me. I smiled and said, "I'll only be a minute." It took me almost 5 minutes to check the air pressure, give it a puff of air, check the pressure again, etc. And all 4 wheels needed attention. I could see her in her car on her cell phone, and hear her complaining the whole time. When I finished, she started up her car as I was putting the air hose back. Then I realized I needed coffee. As I was walking away, she screamed at me to move my car. I just smiled and said, "I'll only be a minute." Story 2. Bought a car to spite someone who wanted it. This is long and involves some fairly esoteric Navy knowledge. About 20 years ago, I was a Navy pilot going on my first deployment, flying helicopters off of a destroyer. Over the small flotilla of ships in the Med was a Commodore. A Commodore is a captain who is given command of multiple ships. This Commodore, who I shall call Chuck, was also a complete jackass. Here are 2 examples of his assholery. One day after flying all morning, we were tasked with picking the Commodore up from one ship and bringing him to our ship. Easy enough. It was about noon and we had not eaten. It is customary for ships to provide box lunches to flight crews if they land around a meal time, so we requested lunch. After we land, he keeps us waiting for about a half hour without shutting down before he gets on board. During that period, someone brought out 4 styrofoam boxes with pizza in them. Score. They provided no explanation, never connected to the communications system, just put them in the cabin and left. So, we fly Chuck and his staff to our ship, shut down and offload everything. The crewmen dig into the pizza, while the other pilot does paperwork and I rinse the engines. After I'm done, the OIC, our boss, comes to me and asks me what happened to the pizza. I explained that I think the crew ate most of it. I hadn't had any yet. It turns out the pizza was for Chuck. He got angry and dressed down our OIC for fostering thievery amongst his men. I'm talking stand at attention and get screamed out dressing down. We of course tried to explain and apologize, to no avail. Chuck refused to be consoled. So, the next time we flew into Suda Bay, we ordered a no-shit real pizza from an actual pizza joint and brought it to him. He was not grateful. Didn't even say thank you. Next assholery, I brought with me on the cruise, a 3-man slingshot. One day during maneuvering drills, ship drivers doing silly formation things with their big boats, I and some of the guys break out the slingshot on the flight deck and start launching water balloons at the ship closest to us. We launched several and only succeeded in hitting it once, low near the water line. I'm talking an actual US Navy warship, a DDG guided missile destroyer. It got hit by one water balloon. Once again, our OIC got yelled at because his men were endangering the lives of everyone on board his ship. I felt bad for getting our OIC in trouble, but seriously. What a dick. Anyway, before we left on that cruise I had put on order a Nissan 350Z. It was the first year they were out. They came out in year model 2003, but this was in early 2002. So, mine is on order. After we get back from cruise, I get a call from the Nissan dealership saying they had a shipment in of 350Zs. None of them matched my order specs exactly, but I was welcome to come down and see if any of them would be acceptable, and if so, I could have one of them immediately instead of waiting. So I head down to the dealership and the sales rep I've been talking to meets me and takes me to one of the cars on the floor inside that is close to my order. Everything but the color. I ordered silver and this one is maroon, but everything else is the same. And who is standing there drooling over it? Chug. I don't think he recognized me. I was a relative peon compared to his worshipfulness, and I was wearing civilian clothes. Nice car. I say to Chuck. Yeah, this is a beauty, he replies. It's exactly everything I want. I'm going to buy this one. I nod thoughtfully and then wave over my sales guy. I'll take it. Let's go sign papers, I say. I smile at Chuck and take pleasure in his look of slack disbelief as the salesman slides a little sign that says sold under the wiper, and I go take care of the transaction. It was petty, but it felt good. Screw you, Chuck. Story 3. Cake Decorator Revenge. This is not my story, but my mother's. My mom is an incredibly talented artist. For that reason she went into cake decorating because she could make edible art. Trust me, our birthday cakes were epic. My mom worked at a grocery store bakery. Pretty big store at the time. There was a bakery manager who assigned cakes and there was a store manager who was in charge of the whole store. He was a total jerk. My mom went to work on a Friday, got her assignments, which included a wedding cake, and got to work. She heard through the store gossip that today was the store manager and his wife's anniversary. He is going to have the bakery make his anniversary cake and cupcakes for his party later. Of course, he wants Mom to drop everything she is doing to create his very specific cake. Mom says I am just too busy and you don't pay me overtime to stay late, so I won't have time, but one of the junior decorators do it. He tells her nope, no way. He will authorize her overtime. He has very specific types of frosting, colors, decorations, the whole shebang. His problem was his wife didn't like chocolate frosting or cake, so he was pretty bummed he couldn't have what he wanted. My mom was so agitated that he was making her stay late and she would have to pay extra for the babysitter that she decided to make a special cupcake just for him to try before he went home. Cue pettiness. Back then they used to have this laxative that looked like little chocolate bars. My mom took a quick break, went and bought a box of that stuff and mixed it in with a little batch of chocolate frosting for a special treat for the store manager. She decorated the cake, iced all of the cupcakes, including the special one for the store manager, and then got back to work. Mom managed to get everything done by skipping lunch and only getting out of there 45 minutes late. As she is walking up the stairs to clock out, she hands the store manager his special cupcake. Conversation went something like, since you can't have what you wanted, I made this one cupcake specifically for you. She watches with great pleasure as he eats the cupcake in around 3 bites, telling her how fantastic it was. Now, Mom giggles and clocks out. She goes home and is called by the bakery manager pretty early in the morning to inform her he needs to see her before she starts her shift Monday morning. Now, Mom is worried she is going to lose her job. So, she goes to work a half hour early Monday morning and sits down to have her bakery manager tell her he is writing her up. He is not firing her, much to Mom's relief. The bakery manager has tears running down his face as he tells Mom the store manager not only shit his pants in the store in front of staff and customers, but he shit his pants all in his car on the way home. They had to cancel the dinner party because he could not get off the toilet. Apparently his wife asked him what he ate that made him have such a stomachache, and he of course blamed Mom. The wife had eaten some of the regular cake and said she was fine, so it must have just been his. She also told him that's what you get for treating your employees like shit. They give you shit in return. The best part of this is the store manager was so embarrassed he transferred to a different store so he wouldn't have to see anyone he had crapped his pants in front of. My mom took it as a win-win. It was the only write-up my mom ever received at work. Story 4. I purposely farted in front of guy at the gym because he wouldn't take no for an answer. So a few things. I go to the gym to work out and decompress. I don't see it as a place to be social. I wear large over-ear headphones. I was at the gym and just finished my sets for deadlifts, when a guy walks over. This is something I'm used to, despite how much I dislike it, but he starts talking to me and I'm able to pick up he's flirting. I'm polite and waiting for the proper moment to end the conversation. When he asks for my number I decline. He keeps talking and going into the usual shtick of why not? And come on. At that point I'm very uncomfortable and also annoyed because my workout timer has already gone off and it passed time for me to start my next set. I put on my big girl pants and tell him he's making me uncomfortable and I just want to finish my workout. Does he leave? No. He keeps talking now, going on about how he didn't mean it like that and he's not a bad guy. No actual apology to be found. Now during this entire interaction I've had to fart. I was being polite and holding it in until he left, but seeing as he's not, I think, well, I know a way to get him to leave. As he's still talking I let it go. It's silent but rather smelly. It only takes about 2 seconds for him to catch a whiff. He stops talking and the face he makes is too much that I have to bite my lip to stop laughing. That's when he give me a look of "Are you serious?" and the finally leaves. And I'm left alone to finish my workout. Story 5. What's a little revenge among family? Just happened and had to post. For some background, when I was little I was one of those prissy kids who would tattle. I'm not proud and am grateful I grew out of it. Anyway, back when I was about 5 my grandma was brushing my hair when she dropped the brush, muttering "shoot." Apparently I misheard and informed her in no uncertain terms that my mother would not appreciate you using that language around me. Grandma's been eating out on that story for over 30 years. Yes, it's as mortifying as it sounds. Yesterday I got my payback. My mom was talking about something and used the word frickin' for emphasis, and Grandma called her on it. She made a joke about washing Mom's mouth out with soap, mind you she's almost 90 and Mom's in her 60s, and teased her about using inappropriate language. Mom argued back that she said frick, which is not a curse. Grandma countered that it was a stand-in for the curse and everyone knows what she meant, so it was just as bad. I saw my chance. So Grandma, if the stand-in for a curse is as bad as the curse, that means I was right to chide you for saying shoot when I was a kid. The look on Grandma's face when she realized she had no defense priceless. Story 6. Entitled Man Gets to Wait in Line. Probably 10 years ago my mom and I were going to a local city office to buy vehicle registrations. Being that there were limited days to purchase these registrations, the parking lot was packed and the line of people waiting was probably close to an hour and quite long outside the building. I drove around for a while until I found a woman pulling out of a space and got in position to pull in after. However, the way she backed out cut me off and an older man coming from the other direction rushed in and parked his car. I rolled down his window and he was told me it was first come first served. I drove my mom over to the line and dropped her off and went to find a parking space. When I got back to the pedestrian, like my mom was a dozen or so spaces in front of this jerk and I just stepped in like with her. For the next 45 minutes or so I just made faces and smirked at this idiot while he grunted in anger. He may have got the quick parking, but my mom and I still got out of there 5 to 10 minutes faster. The line was through a cordoned off area, so we passed close several times. I made multiple huge exaggerated grins and winks, and I may have also mockingly bragged about getting to cut in line ahead of him. I still enjoy this revenge. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.